Hello my friends, welcome to another exciting episode of our Photoshop design series. In this video I'll be showing you how I created this flyer in Photoshop. Right? If you're new to this channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any videos I'll be dropping anytime from now. Without having to say much, let's get started. Okay, so like in previous videos like we've done before, the first thing I want to do is come over here and give this a name. So I'm just going to make this talk show flyer like this, and inches, width 5x5, resolution 300, and RGB please, and click on create like this. Okay, so when you do that the right way, you'll be greeted with this interface. So this is my foreground color, right? So you can use this color code and click OK. Let me just cancel this. That's the color code, and I have it inside the notepad, inside the resource file. The resource file to this particular video is in the description of this video, so just scroll down to the description, then you get that. So let's work on the background. We're going to use a plain white for this, right? So when you do this, the next thing you want to do is kindly go over to the resource file and bring in this first file here. So basically I'm just dragging and dropping, and I'll just rotate this way, make sure it's straight, and oh well, in the long run it doesn't really matter. So just expand it like this, and when you're done just click OK. So what you want to do next is go over to opacity and turn this down like this. So I'm going to be using anything above 10. 16 looks nice enough, right? So I'm going to be using 16 for this. Okay, so let's move on with this. Yeah, so next thing you want to do is draw another rectangle right over here. So I'm going to go over to my rectangle, swap these colors, right? So my foreground color has been swapped. Go over to my rectangle, make sure you do that first. Go over to the rectangle, and I'm just going to draw this. So the reason why it was swapped, just so anything I do has that same color, right? So this is the color of the background. Let me see, this might not be the right color, so let me go over to, no, this is the calculator. I'm just going over to the notepad and green BG, so just copy this, and that's, double click on this and just paste this. Yes, this is the right color, click OK. Right, so this is the right color code, so just use this and just paste this here like this, and then you're good to go. Click OK this way. Alright, cool. So let's move on here. Next thing you want to do is go over to your rectangle too, and you want to draw on that rectangle, but this time it's not going to be the regular rectangle, but draw the rectangle first. This is the first thing you should do. Right, so when you draw the rectangle, right, now with the rectangle selected, come to the edge like this and just drag this inside like this to create round corners instead of straight corners, right? So let's see, the ellipse, this is the color, right? So let's see, double click on it, and though the final file is going to be the right colors, you can see this is not the actual color I used, right? But in the when you're doing this, at the time you're doing this, you have the right colors, right? So I'm just going to change this. I think this is good to go. So I have a good amount of contrast from this green and the other green, right? So the next thing I would like to do at this time is go over to my resource file and bring in the image of this first person we're going to be using. It's a talk show, so she's one of the speaker, right? And I'm just going to bring her here and click enter, right? So the next thing I want to do is I want to make it pop, right? So go to camera raw filter, like we always do this, right? So what you want to do is you just follow my settings here. So highlights goes down, the shadows comes up, and the texture goes up all the way, and click OK when you're done. So you can see a huge difference in before and after, right? Not a huge difference, but the difference is quite significant, right? So next thing you want to do is add a mask to it, because we need to get rid of all those hard parts, right? Turn off the cap lock so you don't see this. You can reduce the size here or use the slider, but I like doing mine manually with my bracket key. Right, so I'm just going to gently go over the edges, like reduce this a bit, just do this, and voila, we've gotten rid of those sharp edges. So I'm just going to go over here like this and make sure it's nicely done this way. Great. Okay, the next thing I like to do is go over to my source file and bring in the image of the guy, right? So I'm just going to drag and drop, and then make sure the head of like the person you're using is not bigger than the other one, right? Though in some cases when you're designing, you might make this somehow, because some designs are not like so. For this, I'm just going to make it the same, so I have uniformity in the size and the body of the images I'm using, right? So I'm just going to move this slightly to the right like this, and of course I want to get rid of the hard edges, so click and to create a mask, go over to my brush, and I'm just going to get rid of the edges here like this. I'm using the soft brush, right? So I'm just going to get rid of the edges here like this, and seeing that it's perfect, I'm just going to let it be. Right, great. Okay, so move this downwards like this, like so, and I want to copy the same effect I used on this lady, on the guy. So I'll just hold down my Alt key and drag and copy the effect onto the layer of this guy. You can see. So instead of going around and doing the effect, everything, I just copy and paste. So just hold down the Alt key and drag to this point, select the two of them, and I'm going to group them, and I'm just going to name this images. As simple as that, right? Let's not complicate things. Let's make sure our layers are clean and orderly, right? So I'm going to select these two, and I'm just going to move them slightly downwards like this. Yeah, great. We're doing good, and you're doing just perfect. So what you want to do next is go over to the pen to make sure you're selecting the shape and not path, right? So with it selected, you want to draw something like this. Click here, click here, click here, and click here. That's 4 times. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 times. Basically you're clicking 4 times, but you have 3 points, right? So select these two and click on merge shapes, right? You can see merge them into one shape, right? Great. So what you want to do next is go over to the top layer on top of the image, create a new layer, and I'm just going to throw in some text here. So what I'm going to be writing is very simple. The discussion is going to be weird facts like this. So I'm just going to use this, and I'm just going to change the typeface here. So select the two of them. I'm just going to change the color first. I'm going to use this color. I'm going to use a brighter shade. I will definitely going to change. I'm going to change this later on, right? But for now, I'm just going to use this. So what you want to do is let's see. Okay, so I'm going to change the font, and I'm going to use the font that I used. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it, and this is it here, right? So zooming out, I'm just going to make it big, Ctrl T, and make this big like this. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and adjust this to fit well, make this smaller like this, and then at this point I think I'm good with this. right? So next thing I want to do is go over to rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle like this. It's not that hard, it's not too deep, just a basic rectangle, but it's going to be tiny and thin like this, right? I'm going to choose a color, which is this color that I used for it. And what I want to do here is, let's see, so I might want to bring this rectangle downwards, so I'll just drag down, right? So I'm just basically dragging down. Okay, so when that's done, I'll select the fact and the weird, right click, and click on convert to shape, right? Still selected the 2 of them. I'm going to go to merge shapes, right? So you can see that's one shape now, right? Good. So let's move on then. The next thing you want to do is make a duplicate copy of this, and with your selection to move it upward like this, and let's see, I'm going to put this one at this point here, directly on top of that green that's in the background, right? When you're designing in Photoshop, your layers and your positioning actually matters a lot. So with this done, I'm just going to make a copy of this, Ctrl J, and yes, good. So I'm going to move this like this to this point here. So I have a nice weird facts kind of background going on behind there. Select the 2 of them and click on merge shapes, right click on this and click on create clipping mask, right? So it's clipped to this background, right? Make sure everything is done in an orderly manner, right? Great. So the next thing I want to do is go over to my text tool, and I'm just going to type a few things. I'm going to change the font first, and I'm just going to speed this up slightly. Okay, so there you go. So you have Fridays 10 p.m. all Fridays in November, right? So let's move on. Go over to your ellipse tool. Ellipse tool, should just click and hold to get the ellipse, and what you're going to do is create a new layer here directly above everything, and just draw your ellipse here, right? So right at this point, move it to the position, double click on the thumbnail to bring the color picker, and for the ellipse, this is the color we're going to be using, right? So highlight this and paste this here. You can see that this color too is slightly off, but in the new file you're going to see the real color there. So I'm just going to move it to the real color, and I'm going to use this, right? So we have this in place. The next thing I like to do is, okay, so this is the color, right? So I'm just going to update this in real time and put this there. All right, so great. So this is the color for this, and yeah, so that's this is the color for this. That's the talk green, that's the talk shape green. So I'm just going to copy and paste it there and click OK. All right, so and then back to this, right? So next thing I want to do is, this is what we're working on, right? The ellipse. So go over to your resource file and bring in this podcast logo kind of, right? Make it smaller at this point, reduce the size, drag and drop here like this. Okay, great. Click enter. So what you want to do at this point is, since you have it here, right, it's not really looking nice, so one thing you want to do is make as in the middle like this, right? Let me zoom out and Good. So right click here and click on blending options. Under blending options, what you want to select is color overlay. Make sure your option is grayed out like this. Go inside and change this back to normal. Right, if I zoom this, if I move this, you can see that the color has changed already, but we don't want that, it's too dull. We want the initial foreground color or the background color we used before. Right, there's light kind of lemon. Right, so this is what we're going to use. So make a copy of this, but before you do that, sorry, right click and convert to smart object. Right, the first thing to do. So you can now make a duplicate copy of this, change the blend mode to, let's start with hard lights. Right, hard lights, still selected, go to filter, go to blur and go to Gaussian blur. Is it Gaussian blur or Gaussian blur? Please help me, please. And click OK with this. Right, so with this one, Ctrl J, but before you do that, I'm going to change, I make a duplicate copy of that, change this to vivid light, double click on the Gaussian blur and increase it like this. Right, and click OK. So this is one of the ways you can quickly lighten things up inside of Photoshop. Right, so you can see that in every video, every tutorial, there's something new to learn. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, you are doing the wrong thing at this time now. So with this text selected, I'm going to convert this to smart objects and I'm just going to add this amount of noise. But before that, I want to change the color. So double click and I want to use something lighter. So I'm just going to go up to this region and boom. So this is the color code for the word facts. This is what you should use. So I'm just going to change it. It's not here before. So click enter and I'm just going to type word facts. Boom, and this is the color code. Right guys, click OK when you're done. So what you want to do is click on the word facts. Let's see, click on it. Yeah, good. Go to filter and go to noise, please, not blur, and add noise, convert to smart object. Yes, we are ready. Good. So until you get this amount, and I think I'll just settle for 50 and click OK. Make sure you're using my settings, please. Good. So this is what we want to achieve and we've actually achieved that. Okay, so let's move on now. Let's make this more interesting by flipping some things around. So to start with, I'm just going to bring this inside and I'm just going to turn this right. Make sure you are directly on top of the talk shape. Yeah, so select screen. Yeah, okay, linear dodge add seems to be better. So right click on this and create clipping mask. Right, so it's clipped to just the shape alone, but I want to reduce this. This seems to be too much. Right, so what you want to do is reduce this all the way down here like this. Yeah, so you reduce all the way down here like this, and until you get a minimalistic kind of effect, not too much and not too small. Right, so you can feel free to also reduce the fill here too. So 2459, those are the values that are actually used. Right, great. So let's move on then. Right, great. Okay, so like I said, we've done the basic things, right? We're just fine-tuning and making this design pop, right? I think this is one of the most important aspects of this design. So select all of this and group them, and I'm just going to name this BG, that's background, right? So what I'm going to do next is, so I'm going to select all of this, I'm going to group it, and I'm going to name this podcast logo. Let me just give this podcast logo, right? So what I'm doing basically is I'm arranging my layers so I don't have things scattered everywhere. right? So this is podcast logo, and click on this and create a new layer here, right? Directly under the shape, go over to your brush tool and do something like this. Double click once, click one again, click one again. So in all, I'm clicking 2 times for both sides. Click up here, one, and there you go. So you have your realistic shadow, right? That was important. So what you want to do next is very simple. From the Fridays, all Fridays in November to this part, I'm going to group them. I'm just going to name, this is what I grouped, right? So you don't group the wrong thing. So I'm just going to name this details, right? I still feel my okay, so I'm going to add this to the details, right? I'm just going to leave that there. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to select all of this, and I'm just going to name this chat box, right? So chat box, that's been sorted out. You can see that I have space now. It's not until when you have 101 layers staring at you before you know you have completed your design or you've nailed your designs, right? So create a new layer directly above every other thing here. Flip this, swap this color, and let's let there be light, right? So you guess right. So it's time for light section. Basically, let there be light. So come up here, and I'm just going to measure this, and I'm just going to click. Make sure your opacity and flow is set to 100, and I'm just going to click once like this, and yeah, click once, right? So let me do that again, right? So go up here, you can see the angle at which my brush is, and just click once, right? Great. So what you want to do next is you can just move it gently up a bit, not too much. Change the blend mode to screen, right? So when you do this, let's add some more light to some areas, and the first one I'm going to be starting with is, let me see if you get this right. Where do I put more lights? I'm going to apply it to the body of this handsome looking dude here. So what I'm going to do is go over to the images, create a new layer directly above him, right click and create clipping mask like this, right? So my foreground color still remains constant. I'm just going to go over to my brush. Now pay close attention to this. I'm going to reduce my brush so small, not too small, I'm just going to come up here like this, and you can see I'm close to my edge like this, and on this part I'm going to be sensitive here, so I'm just going to Ctrl Z and do it well. So reduce the size of my brush, and I'm just going to go down like this. So for some of you that don't like zooming in, I don't know how you are going to master lighting effect if you don't zoom in. So I'm just going to come in here like this, and I'm just going to small gradually, not too much, and I'm just going to continue with the same flow around these areas here like this, and all those areas where you have those whites. I'm just going to, now that I'm done with those areas, I'm going to increase my brush size, and I'm just going to paint in those lights here. So I'm going to go full control on these areas here. With my size of brush, I'm going to replicate that small thing I did down there here, because it's expected that light would hit these areas very well. So I'm going to do the same thing here, right? I'm going to be more specific on those areas. You can see how nicely this is done. Don't do lights. There are millions of ways to actually create lighting effect, but this is one of the ways, right? In Photoshop you can do things differently. So I'm going to reduce the flow, and I'm just going to add some more lights. You can see how I made my brush bigger now, because I'm just adding some, because I've reduced my flow, right? So you can do the same thing too, and go to blending option, hold down your alt key while you break this up to make it blend more to the image, and blend it okay like this. Hold down the alt key to separate this and click OK when you're done. You can see that you have a balanced light effect like this. I'm going to do the same thing for the lady too. Create a new layer above her and clip it, and I'm just going to make this smaller like I did with the guy, and my flow is set to 23. I'm just going to do small light effect. The light doesn't touch this area, so Ctrl Z. Yeah, so I'm just going to focus on, you can see I'm just going to start small and I'm going to get bigger while I zoom close to this part here like this. So you can see the logic, right? So you have to be very on this part here. I'm going to go smaller, so because I know these edges are going to be more intense, right? So this is one of the tricks. I don't think I've used this trick in any of my videos before. There are so many tricks inside the book to create lighting effects in Photoshop, right? Good. So as time goes on in our tutorials, I'll be showing you most of all those things that I do when I'm creating my thumbnails or any of those things. If you can create like something like this as a flyer, there's nothing stopping you from creating a thumbnail, right? For some of you asking me to create thumbnail, right? So but I'm going to make a video of a thumbnail after this. I'm just going to make a random video creating a thumbnail using Photoshop. So I'm just going to space this out and space this out to create a more unified and blended light effect. You can see that it looks real, right? Very important. Whatever you do, make it count. So I'm done with the images. I'm just going to go to other areas that I need to light up, and I think this chat box would be needing some lighting up, right? But before I go, let me just quickly throw in the names, right? Great. Okay, so there you go, Sharon and Cole. Good. So let's move on here. Okay, people. So what you want to do is now I'm going to visit the chat box, right? So yep, this guy here, coming here. I need to put some lights there. So create clipping mask. Flip this and okay, this is not going to work on the outside here, right? Delete this, open it up, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and make sure we are working directly on the shape. So create clipping mask, so we are doing that on top of this. So let's see. So that's the main difference. So we'll just do this here and do this along this part here like this, right? So when we're done, you can close this up. So let's come to the podcast logo. We're going to do the same, but we're going to go directly on the ellipse itself. So right click and create clipping mask with your brush selected. I'm just going, you see how distant I am, right? I'm not too close to it. I'm just going to apply this here, right? Yes, voila. And I'm just going to change the blend mode to linear night. It's not going to work for me, so I'm going to do linear dodge add. Great. Okay, so at this point we've come to one of the most important aspects of this. So I'm going to be working on details now. So I just want to create something fancy here to make it stand out. So what do? Let me close this up. Make sure you are on this part here. I'm going to drag and drop this image here like this. Click enter to drop it. I could just leave this here to create some kind of effect, but that's not the plan. So I'm just going to put this here and put it in place, make it smaller. It's too small. Increase it up like this and click enter. Right, click enter like this. So what you want to do is, I'm just going to move it, sorry, so I've moved it inside of the details, right? So I'm just going to, yeah, this is it. Yes, so it's on top of all the text. So what you want to do is click and drag to where Friday is like this. When it's there, Ctrl T and increase the size like this. Okay, so somewhere around here is good. So I want I don't want a plain white. I want a color that reflects all of the colors I've been using before, or one of the color. So go to blending mode, right? What you want to do is click on color overlay. So when you click on color overlay, we have our good color here, but this is what you get at the end of the day. This is not the plan. So I'm just going to change the blend mode to something that would make you see that, okay, yes, I'm using a paper, but it's quite different, right? It's different from the norm. I think this is good color bond, but let's check out other options, right? Most times when you're designing is okay, can I use this? Let me try something. So it's just, most times you do so many try and errors before you get the right thing to do, right? So don't just believe we just sit down and all of a sudden the idea just hits you up in your head. It doesn't work that way. So right now I'm using color, right? You see the blending mode is set to color, right? And let's see, that works too. Let me see color bond. Okay, you can use color bond and change the color, right? Maybe select this color, right, and use the lighter version of the color, maybe this version, right? When you are done, this is the color code. Click OK. Remember, you're using color bond, right? And click out. So at the end of the day, this is what you have. Nicely done, and our layers are intact. So you can then reduce this all together by selecting the details, right? So at this point we have everything nicely done, but then we need to blend our colors to make it more professional and more realistic, right? You don't want to do things haphazardly, right? So how do we get on with this? Ctrl Shift Alt plus E to make a snapshot. Right click and convert it to a smart object. Go to camera raw filter. When you're here, just follow my settings, right? So with this, texture is going to go up, and I'm just going to do some plus and minus here. Increase some contrast, reduce, should I reduce or give more highlights? Most times these highlights can be very, very funny. I already have lights there, so I'll just leave my highlights at that point. But for my shadows, this bro is going to go down, so I'm just going to bring this down here like this, and for the blacks too, it's going to go down, right? So I have a design that's rich in contrast, right? Can put this here, and I'm going to tint it a bit, tinting, adding some greens to it, and when you're done, just click OK, and everybody goes home happy, right? So guys, this is the before and after. Nicely done. So at this point you can go on and experiment, maybe throw in some extra filters before and after, right? Throw in some extra filter. When I mean throw in some extra filter, you can go over to adjustment layer, maybe go over to selective color, color lookup, all of those things. Play with some of the filters here. You have some cool filters here that you can play with, which I will be explaining later on, right? So you can just select any of these ones and make use of them, please. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going to use any of those things. I'm just going to delete this and stick to this. Alright guys, if you've loved this video, don't move away from this video without giving a thumbs up. Please like the video, and if you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. I'll be sure to answer all of your questions, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.